About 4 o'clock in the morning, it fell all in one go, shook the whole house, went into the kitchen to hear hissing water, looked under the sink and there was just water spraying everywhere. We had no idea what to do, whether it was safe. Spoke to someone on the phone. He started taking all the details, asked if we had anyone vulnerable here. I explained we've got a nearly 2-year-old toddler. So he said, oh yeah, that's a vulnerable person, so it's an emergency. And then we got to the end of it and he said, oh, actually, I can't do your claim on the phone. You need to log it online. I took my daughter to my sister-in-law's. Most of the wall had fallen, but there were still bits here and there still falling. So I didn't know if the rest of it was going to go in one go. So we obviously vacated the house. When I got to my sister-in-law's, I logged it online. And then they said that they'd instructed someone to come out and look at it. So the first time that they came out, it was just an assessor, took some photos. He came about 5 days after it happened, so there was no urgency there. He then reported it. They then came back and said, oh, we need to send a structural engineer out to see if it's insurable. So even at that point, they were like, it might not be insurable. So then they had a structural engineer report sent through to them. It took them a few days, maybe a week after, to come back to me and say, it is not insured because it had insufficient weep hole drainage. So I instantly asked for a copy of the report because they hadn't sent that at this point. I read through the report and the report said, due to debris at ground level, they were unable to determine whether there was sufficient weep hole drainage. So I instantly ran back and said, I don't agree with your answer because it says this in the report. So then they said they can pass it on for a review, for them to come back and say, oh yeah, I'll raise it in this meeting with my team leader and I'll raise it in that with the team leader. And every time I'm telling them, the wall's still half standing. And I keep telling everyone how urgent it is. And everyone on the phone's really nice. And they're all like, yes, I understand. Yes, it needs sorting immediately. But then I'm sat waiting again for weeks. So it was just to and fro-ing, constantly going, nope, they've made a decision, it's not covered. Me arguing it again and them saying, right, we'll escalate it to so-and-so. And then them coming back going, no, it's not covered. And then the last person that came out was someone from their internal surveying team. And he said he was only coming out to look at the damage to the house. The wall wasn't covered at this point. They're just looking at the house. And they're going to look at how they can remove the debris to do the damage on the house without making more damage with the wall falling down. But my point was that they have to remove the wall to make it safe. So why not just rebuild the wall? So then he came into the back garden and he saw in the remaining wall that it had weep hole drainage. And he said to me, did this go across the whole of the wall? And I said, yes. And he said, well, why did the report say that there isn't sufficient weep hole drainage? And I said, I don't know, so that's your report. So he said he'd raise it. So then he went back, raised it. Within a day of him doing it, he told me he'd done his report. And then I was waiting another 2 weeks before anyone got back to me on the report after me chasing constantly. And then they've come back this time and said, final decision, it's gone as high as it can go. It's not covered due to poor design, but they will cover all the windows on the house and the tap that's been damaged. I want the insurance to rebuild the wall. I mean, if I have to go to court and fight them, then I'll go for damages because I've had countless nights of worrying about how it's going to be built, how I'm going to afford to do it, the safety of me and my family. So it's more than just the wall, it's a constant stress. And I've had to try and deal with this while working full time and being a mother, just trying to get everything sorted.